Hello my pop culture friends, yes it's me GhostCritic, and I think it's about time for Marches. This month I have been mostly a pop culture roundup, a selection of things that I have been listening to, watching and reading over the last 4 weeks or so. And this month I decided in my listening band I would go full on retro. I didn't listen to any new releases in the month of March, and I've picked out 4 albums spanning 4 decades, starting at the 60s and ending with the 90s, with a decidedly female bend to it. With my watching habits, I thought I would show you what I am watching when things are uploading on the internet, because as soon as I switch on upload, my internet goes very slow, and so I have to not resort to, but I have to watch my DVD collection. So there are some selections there for you. And what have I been reading? Well, there has been some slim picks that I haven't quite managed to finish yet, but I will talk about them nonetheless. I hope you enjoy this month, and make sure you, if you do, give it a big thumbs up, subscribe. This comes out at the last Friday of every month, and also comment down below if you have any suggestions of things that you'd like me to listen to watch and perhaps read. I will take them under consideration, but be warned, I may not like them. So let's get on with it. Let's find out what I have been mostly Right, so as I said at the top of this video, I have selected an album from each decade, from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s and the 90s. And they all feature very heavily a female artist. Go themes. The first album I want to talk about came out in 1969, and actually when it was released wasn't that huge a hit, which is very surprising. It wasn't until perhaps like the early 2000s where it won a Grammy Award and got the recognition and is now seen as, in all those kind of top 100 albums of all time lists, it has its place firmly in there. I am talking about Dusty Springfield and her album Dusty in Memphis. Now, Dusty Springfield has had a kind of very choppy kind of career in her day, and has had many kind of resurfacing, resurgences due to collaborating with kind of other artists. But back in the 60s she was a big deal, and this I think this was her maybe 5th or 6th album. I think it was her 5th album, and with Dusty in Memphis she kind of decided to go not against what she'd done before, but she wanted to go back to her roots, which was very much that kind of soul, almost kind of jazzy type era of her youth. And so with collaborations from, you know, co-writing and writing with Carole King, Burt Bacharach, Randy Newman, she made this wonderfully sensual album. I mean, just put this on in the background when you are wooing your lady or gentleman, and they will be putty in your hands, because although for the time it was probably it's kind, and maybe perhaps a little subtle for the audience at the time and her audience that she had, it is very sexual. It's done in a very British way, but Yes, there are some strong sensual feelings coming from Dusty. I mean, everyone knows the big song "Son of a Preacher Man" because it was on Pulp Fiction from Quentin Tarantino, but there are some great hits on there. The opening track, "Just a Little Lovin' in the Morning," is a great start to this album. She does a cover of one of my favourite songs of all time, "Windmills of Your Mind," which apparently she really didn't want to do. And when she went, because she actually went to Memphis to do this album and record it, she couldn't get the original rhythm to it. She found it very difficult to sing. So they slowed it right down for her. And I just think it just suits her voice so well, and it's one of my favourite tracks of hers, and the actual track "Windmills of Your Mind" is just amazing anyway, and so many other people have covered it as well. And finally, the closing track, "I Can't Make It Alone," just a wonderful ending to a fantastic, as I said, sensual album. Now for my pick of the 70s, this time from 1978. We've just had the seasoned pro of Dusty Springfield. We're going to go right to the opposite end of that spectrum, and the start of the career of one of the greatest British female singer-songwriters that have ever been, and she was a mere 19 years old back in 1978 when this came out, and the genius of this woman just shone right from the very beginning. I am talking about the album "The Kick Inside" by Kate Bush. As I said, this was her debut album, and if you didn't know, if you're not aware of this singer, or you only know like little bits about her, there are some words that go with her. She is incredibly eccentric in the kind of British style. You know, she was known for this eccentric style from the get-go, and she just went for it. She didn't care what people thought of her. She lived the music. She breathed the music. If you had any doubt that this woman was just so out there, the album begins with not 5 seconds, not 10 seconds, but 20 seconds of whale song before that amazing, just so, what's the word I'm thinking of? Recognisable falsetto voice that Kate has on the opening track, "Moving." Sure, there's "Wuthering Heights" on there, and that has been parodied to death, but it is a wonderfully evocative song of hers. Some of my favourites on the album, again, I seem to be picking albums that have my favourite songs of all time on. "The Man with a Child in His Eyes" is just a wonderful track that just sends shivers down my spine every time I listen to it. And then you go on to this very strange "Them Heavy People," which kind of has this wonderfully weird rhythm to it, and is veering towards the kind of jazz side, but not quite. There are rock elements in there. There's, you know, there's kind of a little bit of folk in there as well. Her music was always just so cinematic. It was much huger than this kind of diminutive form that you would see on the screen, and she drew kind of literary stories that she'd obviously read. It was just such an amazing debut from such a young singer-songwriter, and a female one at that, because we're talking about the 70s, not the, you know, the most accepting and progressive era of British culture, especially for women, but she stuck with it. She's still here today. She just, I think was it last year, she brought out her latest new album, and she's always just been an amazing singer, songwriter, genius, visual artist that's just beyond compare. Now, I may have been born in the 70s, but it was certainly for me the 80s that really kind of not broadened my horizons, but it certainly put a stamp on the musical styles that I was into and would stay with me for, you know, until today. And one of those genres of music that I still love and I still come back to is that of the kind of electronica era of the 80s. And with their 1982 album Upstairs at Eric's, Yazoo was just a wonderful album for me to be listening to at the time, and I just constantly played and replayed. It's another debut album. This was their first one. It had the coupling of Alison Moyet and Vince Clarke, which in and of itself was a very unusual coupling. Vince Clarke had come from, first he'd been in Depeche Mode, then he moved on to, I think it was a band called, or did he come after? The Associates, I think. I don't know if it came before Yazoo or after, but he was always involved with lots of different bands, hopping from one to another, and then he seems to have for at least 30 years, I believe, stuck with the band Erasure. But it was, that kind of synth pop was my life in the 80s. Name any synth pop band and I will tell you I love it. I will tell you a track that I absolutely adore. I will tell you that I've got a playlist and it's on there and I listen to it all the time. It was just me for the 80s. These two just kind of had something different about them, and I guess it was the kind of juxtaposition between Vince Clarke, who is so heavily into the whole kind of synthesizer electronic music, and then put on Alison Moyet, who has such that wonderful rich, deep, kind of almost operatic at times, soulful voice. And you think these two can't get along, and quite frankly, if you watch interviews with not interviews but documentaries and the stories about the two of them, they didn't really work well together, but the music they made was just fantastic. And it's a shame that I think they only came out with 3 albums, I think it was, which was just a shame because I swear they had so much more to offer. But yes, those sounds should have clashed, but never did. The album at the time wasn't like hugely, you know, critically received. A lot of them, you know, thought that yes, this is a nice little experimentation with kind of the sounds and the lyrics. But people thought it was just a little bit too much. But there's a lot of like nice gold nuggets in there. There's one of my favourite tracks off there called Winter Kills, which has this kind of ominous drum beat all the way through. And I wanted to think that they actually made a video of this, and I scanned YouTube and everywhere for it, and I don't believe they have, and I must have made this up in my mind, but I just see this visual of the camera looking from inside a car to a lonely country kind of road. It's obviously snowing, and the car, you just see the headlights and the shadows as this song goes along, and it just, I swear I've seen it somewhere before, but I clearly haven't because they didn't make a video of this track. But it's just an amazing, very dark, as I said, ominous track. Goodbye 70s. It's brash, it's unapologetic, it's totally the opposite of Winter Kills. It's very upbeat, but it's also Alison Moyet's kind of 2 fingers up at the punk movement that she was very much involved with in the 70s, which was very much part of her upbringing, and she was annoyed at the way punk had gone kind of like commercial, and that it kind of wound down, and that the punk ethic had been watered down, and everyone had just gone back to you know suits and ties and living a proper job, which was totally against that punk ethic. So that was her song to say, you know, F you, the 70s. Just still a great song. And of course the big one that I guess most Americans will know about, because it made them big over there, at least with this track, because it got kind of remixed to be like this huge kind of dance floor filler, was Situation, which did great on the kind of like dance charts over there in America of the 80s, and it is a fantastic song and a great closer to just a fantastic synth pop 80s album. We end this segment with the 90s and an album that was such a huge part of my college life. I don't think there was a student dorm, a student digs, anyone's house that you entered that wasn't blasting this album out at the time. It comes from Bristol's Trip Hop Finest. The album, which was their debut, was the winner of a Mercury Music Award in 1995, and I don't think there is any other contemporary singer that can sing with this amount of emotion, that's touching, painful, delicately frail and wounded almost, than the lead singer's Beth Gibbons. I'm talking about Portishead and their debut album Dummy. Like I said, it was my album of my college years. It was huge for college students at the time, and it has so many amazing tracks, and it kind of helped with the mystery of the whole thing, that, you know, this was one of the bands that really didn't like to kind of do interviews. They didn't like to be, you know, the front and centre stage. They'd made like a short film for one of their tracks off this album, where they kind of played characters within it, but as and of themselves they were a very kind of introverted and, dare I say, shy kind of band. If you've never heard of Portishead before, you're in for a treat. They are kind of like part cinema, part blues, part ambient music, mixing the jazz, the soul, the hip hop beats and those kind of record scratches. And you have Portishead and Beth Gibbons, who I just think has the most intense voice, a female voice certainly, of a generation. She plummeted the depths of her soul, her heart, and it came out in her music. It's fantastic. You have the big hit Glory Box. Their lyrics were just fantastic. You know, the start of Glory Box. I'm so tired of playing with my bow and arrow. I'm gonna give my heart away. Leave it to the other girls to play. And it's just done in this kind of not nonchalant way, but she's tired. She's had enough of playing around. I guess I just want to be in love and stay in love. And then you had Sour Times, and that painful lyric that it's just like, oh my God, this poor woman, 'cause nobody loves me, it's true, not like you do. But she says it in such a way that this love is so unreciprocated, but she is so in love with this person that it's just heartbreaking. And then there's the track Numb, which the first line, I'm ever so lost, and you do lose yourself in her voice. It's just a wonderful album from start to finish. Please, if that sounds up your alley, and even if it isn't, I will convert you to a lover of Portishead. Just a fantastic band that really doesn't bring out enough stuff, but I do believe are still together, but fantastic nonetheless. So what have I been watching through the month of March? Well, I need to set the scene up really for this because, as I said in previous videos, I don't really collect DVDs like the movies because I will watch them on Netflix or other means. So for me to buy DVDs or for people to buy me DVDs, they usually tend to be on the kind of televisual side, a television series that I'm really invested in. And the only time I do really watch them is when I'm uploading videos to YouTube. Our internet speed over here in the UK, I think a lot of you, certainly in America, would cry at how slow it was. This video here, which will probably be maybe 30 to 40 minutes, will take at least 4 hours to upload and process on YouTube. So me putting another device on using the internet slows that again down, right down. So I tend to not use anything that's going to use up my bandwidth or speed of internet, so my upload can go up as quickly as possible. So that's why I end up watching my TV series on DVD. So I picked 3 DVDs out. 2 of them are kind of similar, or at least in that kind of same TV genre, and the other one is a big retro one, but I'm a huge fan of the show. And I'm going to start with that because it's in a nice little collection, a 50th anniversary collection, and that is the Avengers. No, these aren't your Marvel superheroes. There's no Captain America in here. There's no Hulk breaking through walls, etc. This is the British, I guess you call it a kind of spy series with John Steed and Emma Peel, and it was, I think, when did it originally start? I bet the dates aren't on here. They're probably, it's definitely the early 60s, and it starts off, a lot of the first few series are in black and white before it turns colour. As the seasons went on, the stories definitely reflected the times. The kind of the stuff around the 70s were very kind of psychedelic in nature. The kind of adventures that they have would be, you'd think, I'm sure the script writers have been on the acid, on the LSD for the weekend and written this storyline. But it's just a fantastic knockback to great British TV series. And this 50th collection is fantastic. They're all housed in between these pages, and you get all the kind of, these photo shots of certain stills within the TV show, and you've got like Honor Blackman and Emma Rigg, and not in this series because they made a new kind of new Avengers with Joanna Lumley in, which I've also got, which I haven't started yet because I'm still on this. I bought this years ago. I think this was an anniversary present for me, but as you see, my little sticker to let me know where I'm up to. I'm up to season 4 in this book, and it's still in black and white, but just a great series if you're into kind of British cult TV shows. This is very well done. It has the very first episode on here, which actually the last part of it, they always kind of did it in acts. You had Act 1, Act 2 and Act 3, and apparently Act 3 of the very first episode was lost, and they had to put the ending on this. It was all kind of written. They're kind of written synopsis of how the original first show ended. The other great thing about this kind of collection series, if you're ever interested in buying it, is it comes with a few little extras. It's got this exclusive DVD booklet in here, and it's got you know, pictures of the main stars in there. Honor Blackman there, showing how limber she is. Great stuff on there. It's quite funny. Back in, this must be the 60s, we had this is obviously for the young girls of the UK, a book, a kind of comic book style called Diana, and inside you would get comics in here somewhere, comic strip of the Avengers, which was in it, which I thought was really cute, but you can see hopefully kind of like they've taken obviously photographs of the stars to make them look as realistic as possible, but that was a nice little addition. And then you have the episode guide for all the episodes in there as well. So it's a really nice little package, and I was very happy to be given that as an anniversary present. No, I haven't been together with my partner for 50 years. Moving swiftly along, let's talk Supernatural. Now, this is a TV show that I came to very late. I've just finished this DVD off. I need to go out and buy season 5. And I don't know why I didn't start watching this when it first came out, because I guess to me, and people can argue with me about this or disagree, I don't mind, but I just kind of saw this as the boys' version of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Now, Buffy the Vampire Slayer it always vies for position for #1 of my favourite TV show of all time. It's always Buffy the Vampire Slayer or X-Files. It's whatever mood I'm in. So don't knock me that I'm being sexist here, because Buffy, I love that show and I will fight for it till my death. But this certainly was in the same vein, but obviously it's very male-centric, dealing with the same kind of things. You've got vampires, you've got ghosts, you've got monsters, and the way they deal with them from week to week. It's very much kind of monster of the week type of show. But as with shows like this, they had to kind of mature if they wanted to survive, and so you had these overarching storylines in here. And with this one, it was kind of like breaking the 60 or 70 odd seals that was going to bring about the big apocalypse. And what I love about this, and obviously given it was the 4th season and obviously it gained some amount of popularity, I mean it's now in its 10th season, I want to say. They could play around with the genre, just very much like Buffy did, you know, with the styles. You know, Buffy did the singing one, they did the one where no one talked, but still was able to tell a story, and they played around with genre in this as well. And it was just great. It was a great fun little series that I'm going to enjoy continuing with. And I said, it's just one of those TV shows that I actually love. The whole monsters, the supernatural, obviously, element of it. It is just great. And obviously we've got the 2 hunks on the front of the DVD, and the 2 stars, the Winchester boys, and their constant fighting and bickering, which lends to some humour along the way to even out all the darkness and the fighting that goes on in there. But still, great series. And finally, talking about one of my favourite shows of all time, I am still working my way through the X-Files. The X-Files was just such an iconic show of its time. Yes, as the seasons went on, it started to get a little bit ripe, a little bit uneven. Certainly once David Duchovny left, it You would have thought it didn't have long to go, but still managed to claw on for, I think, probably at least another 3 or 4 seasons. Before you ask, I haven't seen the new TV series yet because I want to finish all this off first. I think, let's see, where am I up to on here? I don't think I've got that far to go. Where's my little tag for where I am? Please don't tell me I've lost it because I won't know where I am. Oh, literally. I'm currently on season 8. Episode 13, whatever that is. So we're getting towards the end. This came in a big box set. It's got all the seasons in. This is just half of them, seasons 5 to 8. It's also got the XFiles movie in there, which I'm certainly going to be watching as well, to, you know, round it all out. But David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson match made in TV heaven. The kind of will they, won't they trope of romance stuck in there as well. And just a great fine set of actors also. The guy who played Krychek, I think he's fantastic. He's one of my favourite characters from X-Files. I love Krychek and his kind of double agent upon triple, quadruple agenda that he has. It, as confusing as it got, I always wanted to root for him because I felt like he got a bad rap and got in with the wrong crowd. And of course you've got Skinner, their boss. Who else was really great? The cigarette smoking man. What a fantastic character. I love the fact that the story goes that when he was given the part of the smoking man, he'd actually just given up smoking. So all the cigarettes that you see him smoking there, and he smokes a hell of a lot, are actually all herbal cigarettes. They were never kind of real kind of proper tobacco cigarettes, which I just think is a fantastic thing that, you know, because he's still committed to the part. Chris Carter just created one of the kind of greatest TV shows of the 90s, and again, like I said, I will fight anyone who disagrees with that. Now, what have I been reading for the month of March? Now, at the top of the video, I said, cryptic clue, that there were slim picks. Not slim pickings, they were slim picks. Yes, I was reading 3 separate graphic novels, volume 2, volume 3 and volume 20 of 3 different comic books that I didn't jump onto when they came out in floppies. One of them I am kicking myself for because I would have probably quite a lot of money stashed away in a box if I had. And the other 2, it was just like, there are some books that you just kind of have to go, I'm going to have to collect that in trade. I can't add another comic book onto my pull list. And that's pretty much why I get a lot of graphic novels, especially the the present day ones that come out. It's usually because I would have loved to buy them as singles, but just couldn't afford to add another book onto my pull list. So we're starting off with volume 3 of Jason Aaron and Jason Latour's Southern Bastards, which is entitled Homecoming. As you can see from all these, there are little bookmarks in here because I haven't finished any of them yet, and it's not because they're not good, it's just finding the time to read these bloody things. But Southern Bastards it's visceral, it's vicious, it's ugly, but it's such an intriguing and compulsive read. I've never been to the Deep South. I'm sure this is a very realistic. Jason Aaron and Jason Latour, I believe, are both from the South, so they've had that kind of environment at some point, so they kind of know what they're talking about and what they're putting down on the page. So I believe, however grotesque and however caricaturely they are portrayed, the characters in here still feel real. The artwork by Jason Latour is just great, and it's what you would expect from an Image book. It's got that very indie style to it. It's won a ton of awards. A nice little picture there. Let's see what we've got on the back of here. Winner of the Harry Award Best New Series of 2015, nominated for the Eisner Award for Best Continuing Series in 2015 and 2016, nominated for the Selection Polar at the Angoulême International Comics Festival. Just a great crime series. This one seems to be focusing a lot on the kind of the football aspect of this this town that Jason Aaron has created, and the coach, who is a vile character. When I've heard people talk about it, when I've listened to like podcasts and stuff like that, apparently you kind of do feel for him. I haven't quite got to that part yet. I think he's still a nasty bastard, but he, by the end of this book, I might have changed my mind. Next one, volume 2 of Gabriel Hardman, Corinna Pacheco and Jordan Boyd's Invisible Republic. A kind of sci-fi political thriller, I would generalise it as. I really came for the artwork on here. It's fantastic. The story about the rise to power of this kind of revolutionary and the secrets, I guess, that are going to be unveiled and revealed throughout this series, is what makes, is what the concept of this book is all about, and set in this kind of science fiction post-apocalyptic kind of universe. Again, it's the artwork, it's really nice, it's dynamic, it's a great kind of chase there, but it's just really kind of a fascinating read which has kind of taken me by surprise. I remember picking up the first issue, and perhaps it was at that time when Image were, churning out number one after number one, and I was finding it difficult to say no to all these issue ones, and this must have been around the time where I had to kind of put my foot down and go, no, I can't do this anymore. I love you, Image, you can have my money, but only so much of it. So unfortunately, Invisible Republic didn't get the fair shot it deserved, because I think it's a great book, and I can't wait to finish this and hopefully order the next book. The final book that I've been trying to read this month, and it's one that I have been getting in trade for the last 20 volumes. I know I am very far behind on this. There are much more volumes ahead of me, but it is The Walking Dead. Robert Kirkman and Charles Adlard's a zombie epic that certainly gained a lot of traction with the TV series, which, to be honest, I kind of gave up with by season 3. I think I'm being generous there. But the book, I guess I'm not as invested as I think I am, given I think this is up to maybe volume 26, 27 at the moment, so I am very, very far behind. But it's such a weird read, is The Walking Dead, if you take it in these trades, because it's not separated by the covers for each of the issue. It's just one long continuous stream of Walking Dead, and I guess there's about 5 or 6 issues over here, and I never know when to stop. I know it's a weird thing. I kind of look at a page and I think that's probably where it stopped, but something in the back of my mind said, no, it keeps going on. It's just a big page, just a big splash page. Go on to the next page. And even though I haven't finished this one yet, I kind of find it hard to stop because I don't know where to stop, and to take a breather. I don't know whether that's deliberate. But it's very strange because you don't find many of the trades where they don't kind of split the issues up by the cover within a trade. This one is them trying to take down. Oh, I can't remember. It's not. I'm sorry about this. I will find Negan. Yes. Negan. They're trying to take down his kind of empire, and this is All Out War Part 1. I'm sure lots of you perhaps are very excited for me to read this. A lot of kind of obviously violence in here, and I'm sure I'm going to see a lot of the characters that have been with this series for a long time die along the wayside, because Kirkman's been doing this from day one. But what a series to have not picked up from the beginning, because obviously the TV show made it such a huge phenomenon, but those books, those early issues, go for silly money. It's silly money. I could be on a gold mine. I could give up my work right now. No, I really couldn't. But it's a series that I will continue at my own pace to read. And that's it. We've come to the end of this month. I have been mostly for March. Hope you enjoyed my little sound bites about what I've been watching, listening to and reading over the last month. There will be obviously another one at the end of April where I'll have more stuff to talk to you about. I hope you enjoyed this. As I said right at the beginning of the video, if you've got any suggestions, please feel free to put them down in the comments section box, and most likely I might try it, but as I said, be warned, I may not like it. Until next time, have a great weekend, folks. Bye bye.